The defense chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. strengthened the allies' extended deterrence against North Korea's incremental nuclear and missile threats at regular security talks held today. Early warning system will be shared in real time, while their joint deterrence strategies were updated from a decade ago. Amid a fierce Israeli offensive in Gaza, attacks on a hospital have resulted in grim casualties, leading Hamas to suspend hostage negotiations. The U.S. says it opposes fighting inside hospitals and Israel's occupation of Gaza. The maximum 52-hour work week framework stays unchanged in Korea, but the rule will be applied in a more flexible manner for certain business sectors. This as the government came up with the reform plan today, following its earlier 69 hours weekly cap proposal turned out to be unpopular. It's November 13th, 2023. This is News Center. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. The defense chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. met in Seoul today for their regular security talks. Highlighted was their ironclad deterrence commitment against North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. To that end, the allies' joint deterrence strategies were updated from a decade, while early warning systems will be shared in real time. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung stirs us off.
The defense chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. have reaffirmed their commitment to bolstering extended deterrence against North Korea's evolving provocations. At a press briefing after the annual security consultative meeting held in Seoul on Monday, South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik said he, together with U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin, noted that they will never accept any nuclear attack by North Korea.
If North Korea does use nuclear weapons, it will face an immediate, overwhelming, and decisive response from South Korea and the U.S., which will lead to the end of Kim Jong-un regime.
Austin highlighted the milestone in Washington's deterrence efforts, saying its commitment remains ironclad.
We are continuing to strengthen our shared readiness and our ability to fight tonight if necessary.
In a joint statement following the SCM, the defense chiefs revealed that they have decided to establish a shared early warning system to share detailed information on North Korea's missile launches. This would mean South Korea would be provided with real-time data on North Korea's missile launches from Washington's early warning satellite. Also, in commemoration of the 70th anniversary of the Seoul-Washington alliance, the two sides adopted the defense vision of the ROK-US alliance for the first time since 2019. Through this vision, the two sides will pursue areas of cooperation, especially in the fields of science and technology over the next 30 years, in preparation for Seoul and Washington's 100th anniversary of the bilateral ties. The two allies have also updated their tailored deterrence strategy for the first time in 10 years. The agreement was established in 2013 for tailored deterrence against North Korean nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction. The defense chiefs also stressed the need to strengthen trilateral security cooperation between South Korea, the U.S., and Japan, and continue the momentum established at the Camp David summit. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, tensions continue to rise in Gaza after Hamas suspended hostage talks, citing Israel's attacks near the Al-Shifa hospital. Meanwhile, the U.S. has reiterated its opposition to Israel's occupation and governance of Gaza. Shin Ha-young reports.
Hostage talks were halted by Hamas on Sunday amid fierce fighting with Israel near Gaza's largest medical center.
We hold responsible for the hospital massacre anyone who is silent or fails to act to stop it, prevent it, or criminalize the occupation, and hold their leaders accountable before the courts for international crimes.
Intense clashes have continued near the Al-Shifa hospital as Israel has accused Hamas of using the facility as cover for a command center. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that 12 people, including 3 babies, have died at the hospital due to a lack of electricity. Supplies of medicine are also running extremely low, making the situation even worse. According to the United Nations, during the past 36 days, there were at least 137 attacks on healthcare facilities, resulting in 521 deaths and 686 injuries. On Sunday, the chief of the World Health Organization uploaded a post on social media saying that the situation at the hospital is dire and perilous, and added that Al-Shifa was no longer functioning as a medical facility. The same day, during an interview, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the U.S. does not want to see armed fighting inside hospitals in the Gaza Strip and has conveyed this view to Israeli forces.
And we do not want to see a firefight in a hospital where innocent people, helpless people, people seeking medical care are caught in the crossfire.
During another interview, he reiterated the country's stance on the future of Gaza. Asked by CBS News about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's opposition to a Palestine Authority-led government in Gaza, Sullivan cited no reoccupation of Gaza and no forcible displacement of the Palestinian people as the basic principles of the U.S. vision. He added that Gaza can never be used as a base for terrorism and its territory should not be reduced. His remarks came after Prime Minister Netanyahu emphasized his stance on Israel having security responsibility for the Gaza Strip for an indefinite period even after the war ends. Netanyahu has made similar comments regarding Israel's security responsibility for the Gaza Strip in the past. This is in opposition to the United States' stance, as was reiterated by Washington's top diplomat Anthony Blinken last week when he said that Palestinian views need to be at the center of conversations about Gaza's future. 신하영, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, protests took place in parts of Europe this past weekend, responding to the Israel-Hamas war. There were rallies against anti-Semitism in Paris, while gatherings in London called for a ceasefire in Gaza. Ian Jin has more.
In Paris on Sunday, more than 100,000 people marched the streets against anti-Semitism. The protest was called for by French lawmakers in the wake of a recent surge in anti-Semitic incidents in France since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. French Senate Speaker Gerard Larcher highlighted that the march signifies a total fight against anti-Semitism, which is the opposite of the values of the French Republic. Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne and former Presidents François Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy were among those heading the march. But also present at the march were right-wing politicians, including the presidential candidate for the National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen. President Emmanuel Macron did not attend the march on Sunday, but on the eve of the march said a France where Jewish citizens are afraid is not France. Macron also condemned the confusion surrounding the rally and said instead of a united republic against anti-Semitism, the event was being exploited by some politicians for their own ends. Meanwhile, in London, hundreds of thousands of people marched on Saturday calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. London's Metropolitan Police put the number of protesters at over 300,000, while organizers say it could also have been one of the largest protests in British political history, suggesting some 800,000 people to have taken part in the march. The police reported no issues with the protest as the people marched peacefully through the city. There were, however, a few incidents of violence from far-right counter-protesters who were arrested. Saturday's march in London coincided with Armistice Day. More countries across Europe have also seen such marches. In Brussels on Saturday, about 21,000 people took part in a pro-Palestinian rally, while an estimated 10,000 people marched in the German capital in solidarity with the Palestinian people on Sunday. Ian Jin, Arirang News.
Back in this country, the maximum 52-hour work week framework stays unchanged, but there will be some exception for selected industries. This as the government came up with a reform plan today following its earlier 69 hours weekly cap proposal turned out to be unpopular. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
The government is planning to give workers greater flexibility in working overtime. The Ministry of Employment and Labor on Monday released the results of a survey conducted from June to August of more than 6,000 South Koreans on working hours reforms. The government also announced its intention to raise the cap on weekly hours for certain industries instead of the originally proposed 69 hours across all sectors.
Taking into account public opinion, the government is committed to maintaining the framework of the 52-hour working week system while making changes for selected industries and occupations.
This comes 8 months after the administration unveiled in March a proposal to raise the maximum weekly working hours from 52 to 69. This was in response to certain sectors saying that it was impossible to meet deadlines under the 52-hour workweek system. It also aims to allow for more flexibility where employees can work more when there is a bigger workload and then take extended breaks when there is less work. The proposal, however, was met with a backlash over concerns that it may destroy people's work-life balance, leading the government to backtrack and conduct a large-scale survey to gather public opinion. The survey results showed that more than 54% of people surveyed agreed to raising the cap on weekly overtime hours in certain sectors.
The demand for greater flexibility in working hours is likely to differ across industries and jobs, but the SME sector is for it, regardless of the industry and the job given, if the union and management reach an agreement.
The respondents said the manufacturing industry and jobs in production needed the rise in overtime working hours the most. Over 75% of workers and more than 74% of employers said they would most prefer weekly working hours of less than 60, making it likely for the government to limit the working week to less than this. It is unclear when the government will be able to finalize reforms, as specifics such as which industries the cap will be raised in are yet to be confirmed. 이수진, Arirang News.
The National Assembly began on Monday its review of next year's budget. And one of the key issues to be addressed is spending on R&D, which has been significantly reduced. The ruling People Power Party has pledged fiscal soundness and is maintaining its position on prioritizing the welfare of the underprivileged. Regarding the cutback in the R&D budget of 5.2 trillion Korean won, or about $3.9 billion, the PPP said it will be made up for in other fields such as basic research. The main opposition Democratic Party, on the other hand, said next year's budget does not consider the livelihoods of the people and warned of intense scrutiny of the spending plan. South Korea has seen exports increase some 3% for the early part of November, with chip exports seeing an upturn for the first time in 14 months. An Song-jin takes a closer look.
South Korea's total value of exports for the first 10 days of November stood at $18.2 billion, an on-year increase of 3.2%. According to the Korea Customs Service on Monday, this has been driven by a 1.3% increase in semiconductor exports, in the black for the first 10 days of the month for the first time since September last year. However, month-to-month chip exports have been in decline for the last 15 months. The overall upturn in the semiconductor industry for the first part of this month has led to optimism that chip exports for all of November may be back in the black. Exports of automobiles also saw an on-year increase of nearly 40%, while petroleum products and ship exports declined by nearly 10% and 70% respectively. By country, exports increased to the US, Vietnam, and Japan, while those to China and the EU have been falling. Meanwhile, total exports for October turned positive after a decline of 12 months, something that Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho has said that can continue.
With a recent improvement in the semiconductor industry, this recovery is expected to continue beyond October. However, as external economic uncertainties remain, it will be necessary to put efforts into diplomacy and resolving on-site difficulties to accelerate the recovery of exports.
Though the monthly trade balance is in the black for the 5th consecutive month, as the finance minister notes, responses to external factors may determine the value of exports for the entire of November. An Song-jin, Arirang News.
South Korea's Hyundai Motor Company is building a new manufacturing plant dedicated to electric vehicles in the southeastern industrial city of Ulsan. The nation's largest automaker held a breaking ground ceremony on Monday at the site in Ulsan, where Hyundai Motor Group Executive Chair Chung Ui-sun said this marked the start of the next 50 years of the era of electrification. The company aims to produce 200,000 electric vehicles annually at the new facility starting in 2026. Hyundai Motor plans to invest $1.5 billion in building the 548,000 square meter EV factory. Upon completion, it will be the automaker's first manufacturing plant constructed in Korea in 29 years. We are around 2 weeks away from the host of the 2030 World Expo being announced. To sing the praises of Busan as a potential host, a couple of opera concerts were held here in Seoul over the weekend. Our Lee takes us to the scene.
Voting for the 2030 World Expo isn't far away. In support of Busan's bid, on November 11th and 12th, gala concerts were hosted by Arirang TV, the Korea National Opera, and the Culture Ministry. Among other performances, the Korea National Opera presented Kagok, Korean lyric song cycles, accompanied by an orchestra.
Currently, we have a lineup prepared of 5 opera singers, each performing the pieces they play the best. The concert includes opera arias, Korean songs, and vocal pieces. We've also prepared a song to show support for the Busan Expo bid.
The concert aims to provide a time for people from around the world to gain an understanding of the harmony of different cultures. Classical stars representing South Korea came together, showcasing the excellence of Korea's musical talent and the country's passion to host the expo. The songs express bright messages of hope, and considering that Busan is a coastal city, there were also pieces about longing for the ocean. Many ambassadors to South Korea from different countries attended to show their support.
Yeah, it was really inspiring. Great performance. I'm quite confident that everybody has enjoyed it. It's an illustration of the artistic talent of Korea, and it's really keen willingness to host the World Expo 2003 in Busan. I wish good luck to Korea.
We Will Be One, the official theme song for the 2030 Busan World Expo, was the concert's grand finale. The host city will be chosen by BIE member states at the 173rd General Assembly on November 28th. But as far as Busan is concerned, the message is clear.
부산 준비되어 있습니다. 부산 is ready.
이은희, 아리랑 뉴스.
And time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. Joining us in the studio is our sports editor, Paul Mead. Hello, Paul.
Hello there.
Let's first start with golf, a prestigious award for South Korean golfer Hae-ran.
Yes, she's won the 2023 LPGA Rookie of the Year award, becoming the 14th South Korean to win the award. After finishing tied for 12th at the Annika Driven by Gamebridge at Pelican tournament on Sunday, the 22-year-old also became the first South Korean to win the honour in 4 years. Her nearest rival for the award, Korean-Australian Grace Kim, needed back-to-back wins with 2 events left in the season to win the award instead. But she could only managed a tied for 23rd finish at the Annika. Yu joins a long list of South Korean legends to win the award, including Park Se-ri in 1998 and Shin Ji-ae in 2009.
Right, and to football now. The Premier League on Saturday, there was a match being billed as a Korean derby. What was that? Well,
it was the first meeting this season between Hwang Hee-chan and Son Heung-min, the 2 Premier League stars based from here in South Korea. Now, the Hwang Hee-chan and Wolverhampton Wanderers came out on top thanks to a late equaliser and an even later winner. But it was Tottenham who took the lead, doing so inside 3 minutes through Brennan Johnson. But Wolves fought back with a superb volley from Pablo Sarabia in the 91st minute. Then a deft finish from Mario Lemina in the 97th. Son kept his place at centre forward in a front 3 for Spurs, but couldn't get a single shot on target. He'd scored 3 in 3 before the loss to Chelsea last week. That's 2 defeats in a row now for Tottenham, while Wolves have just 1 loss in 5. Both Son and Hwang are Korea-bound this week for the national team's first World Cup qualifiers under Jurgen Klinsmann. Singapore on Thursday in Seoul and China away next Tuesday.
And sticking with football, Lee Gang-in is part of the national team squad for the fixtures you just mentioned. He had a good start to life in Paris.
Yes, he has, so much so that he was named in the Ligue 1 round best 11 for the 2nd week in a row. That was in the build-up to the Stade de Reims away match at the weekend. PSG won that one 3-0 with Kylian Mbappe scoring a hat-trick. There was another start for Lee Gang-in, who lasted 77 minutes. He's made 9 appearances in all competitions so far this season for PSG, scoring 2 and assisting 1, including a goal in a 3-0 win over AC Milan in the Champions League.
Okay, and baseball and the KBO is our final topic. Games 5 of the Korean series gets underway very shortly. Could this be the LG Twins this year?
Well, their fans have waited nearly 30 years for a Korean series win, but their team are on the cusp of doing exactly that. LG Twins lead the series 3-1, meaning that a win tonight will seal the title for them. They are up against the KT Wiz, who won the first game of the series 3-2, but then they won games 2, 3 and 4, 5-4, 8-7 and 15-4 to set them up nicely for game 5, which gets underway in a little under 10 minutes. Returning to the mound for the Twins is former MLB star Casey Kelly with Ko Young-pyo for the KT Wiz. This is exactly how the team started in the first game last week. And more often than not, when a team has had a 3-1 lead in the Korean series, they have gone on to win. Only the Samsung Lions in 2013 were able to come back and win. They beat the Busan Bears that year.
All right, thanks for the poll. See you next week.
Thank you. See you.
Arctic winds have sent temperatures diving for the past several days. The cold wave will start to ease off tomorrow daytime as a high-pressure system will be taking over. For tomorrow, daytime highs will hover around 10 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. By Wednesday, readings will be returning to the seasonal average and overall conditions will stay mild and quiet. For the East Coast, dry spells are persisting along with gusty offshore winds. In fact, for the coastlines of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsang-do provinces, dry weather advisories are in place. The combination of dry air and gusty winds are conducive to the spread of wildfires. Please take extra precautions. We'll see a wide variation in morning temperatures tomorrow. Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at 0 degrees. With highs jumping significantly, wide temperature gaps are expected for most regions. Daytime highs in Seoul will get up to 10 degrees, Daejeon 11, Busan and Jeju will be topping out at 15 degrees. On Thursday, which is a National College Entrance Exam Day, the entire nation will see showers. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is News Center for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.